Colossians 2:18 through 23 in the Christian Standard Bible say, "Let no one condemn you by delighting in ascetic practices and the worship of angels, claiming access to a visionary realm. Such people are inflated by empty notions of their unspiritual mind. They don't hold on to the head, from whom the whole body, nourished and held together by its ligaments and tendons, grows with growth from God. If you died with Christ to the elements of this world, why do you live as if you still belong to the world? Why do you submit to regulations? Don't handle, don't taste, don't touch. All these regulations refer to what is destined to perish by being used up. They are human commands and doctrines. Although these have a reputation for wisdom by promoting self-made religion, false humility, and severe treatment of the body, they are not of any value in curbing self-indulgence." So in this pericope of scripture, the author is addressing a false teaching in the church around what is okay to eat and drink as Christians. Reverend Dr. Leah Robinson. How can we understand this criticism of a particular kind of legalism in the early church today, and how we ought to conduct ourselves in the modern church?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic verse for the book, but also I think I think we need to take out the early church part and just know that this is wisdom that transcends the early church. I think that this idea that we have a form of religion that is human made is really important. That's sort of the basis of all of my writing. And it doesn't make it any less spiritual or important or holy in that sense to think of things and structures as being human made, because that's all we have. We've created a world where we've tried to box God into this building essentially, and make these structures that make sense to us. And depending on where you grow up geographically, it looks very different. So I think what they're warning against here is to not make that your idol. Don't become beholden to that structure in whatever ways that looks like, because there is something that's greater than that. And so that's what I get from that verse but I think we forget that. And I think there's something within us that needs that certainty that we've got it right. And I think they're saying, don't think that, because there's always something greater than yourself. And as a theologian, I think we could really reflect on that scripture more.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. I do like that scripture a lot. Hey guys, welcome to the Whole Church Podcast, possibly your favorite church unity podcast. It's cool if it's not, though, because we're not in competition with the other unity podcasts to be more united than them, because, we totally win. We're way more. I can't even, there's just no point in having competition for unity, because that doesn't even make sense. It's just not coherent. But I am here with the most coherent man alive, the creator of podcasts, the one and only Pod Almighty, TJ Tiberius One Blackwell. How's it going, TJ?
Good.
Yeah. And we're here with a very special guest, return guest, good friend, one of our co-hosts on a different podcast, This Might Geekology. Check all three of us out over there. Coming with a new book. We have Leah Robinson here. Welcome back, Dr. Reverend Leah.
Thank you. And clearly, Theology on the Rocks is the most unifying of all.
Well, when you drink enough, or when you're silly enough. If you combine silliness and drinks, I think eventually you get that unity.
What if the actual key to church unity is that we should just be doing that?
Yeah, that's why Lutherans are.
I was gonna say.
Why do you think I converted to Lutheran?
That has nothing to do with Will. Will's evangelism mission is really.
He's great. He's so good at his job.
I was gonna say.
He actually is so good at his job. It's just also
we were talking about that before.
He never seems like he's working when he's doing his job. It just seems like he's having a good time.
Pastor Will.
We love
really.
You.
I don't feel offended when people call me the Reverend Doctor and they call him Pastor Will. I'm like, those are appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna be talking with Reverend Dr. Leah Robinson about our upcoming book and how the church is treated. People in the LGBT community, how we can do better. I think we're talking probably a little bit about conversion therapy stuff too, maybe. Yeah. So it'll be fun. Yeah, we're actually going to start Joseph's conversion there. Interesting.
It's like, will it be
And
fun?
it'll be interesting. Interesting. That's a good.
Josh is undergoing conversion therapy to become Pentecostal again.
They're
I
coming
didn't even
for you.
know that I was undergoing set therapy.
Yeah. Sucks, doesn't it? So,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Reverend Dr. Leah Robinson.
Yeah. You
at
can
this
only
point-
refer to me with those.
Yeah, it's very tedious. She's abhorrent.
Well, it's very
to
tedious
have
to
on.
get those degrees as well. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you can understand.
But you are the author of Bad Theology, Oppression in the Name of God, and Bad Theology in a Time of COVID. 2 books that most people say are pretty good. She's one of the hosts on Theology on the Rocks, like we mentioned. She's one of the hosts on Systematic Geekology, like we mentioned. She's also a professor of religion at William Woods University. So, if that
Mercy.
doesn't give you... So, if that doesn't entice you enough to listen to this, then I'm sorry. But she's worth it if we're not. But you should go to our website, buy one of our t-shirts. Helps promote the show. It raises money for podcasting needs, and it gets others to know about the importance of our mission to educate and unite the modern church. Me, personally, I have my favorite, as always. It's the TJ quote on the back. It says nothing on the back. It's very understated. It's got the logo. It's got an arm logo. I love it. It rocks. I do.
It's also my
I
favorite
love
thing TJ's ever said. That's not true, but it could
What
be.
does it say? What does it say?
Nothing.
Oh.
It's just nothing.
Oh, okay.
No, there's nothing there.
Truly, okay.
Yeah. Because TJ's a man of few words.
I know. Well, no,
Sometimes long.
I have met him in real life, but I didn't know that it was just. I thought it was nothing.
I think it's actually in the show description, like in the product description. I think it literally just says TJ is a man of few words.
Yeah. But if you're listening to this, you should also check out the Onside Podcast Network website. The link is below for other shows that are like ours and that aren't like ours, and shows that we like to like, and, you know, the whole thing.
Including the 2 we've already mentioned.
Yep.
So, with that, of course, I do have a favorite form of unity, the holy sacrament of silliness. No one can be divided when they're drinking or having or being as silly as I like to be. Yeah. Today's is an interesting one, to say the least. If you were a body of water, TJ and I'll answer first. Give you time to think about it. If you were a body of water, river, ocean, lake, whatever, what kind of body of water would you be, TJ?
This one's really hard for me. I love water. All forms of it, actually. I think my least favorite might be ocean, just because I don't like sand. So it's not the ocean's fault. But I might have to go with creek. I might would be a creek. Just nice, and not like a Scottish creek or something, that would get on like the front page of an art book. A real creek. A crick.
I know. I grew up in Georgia. I know what a cricket. There's some turtles in there that'll bite your toes off.
Yeah,
That's
but
great.
I'm the creek.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
You'll bite their toes.
It's just something homey about it.
I feel like I might be cheating here. So let me just throw out there. My favorite body of water is the ocean. I love the ocean. I'm not the ocean. Like, if I was a body of water, I would not be that. Because, like, I feel like the ocean is just way more intense than I am, I think, most of the time. I'm going to go a geothermal pool. I love the heat, too. It's mostly calm. It's chill, keeps to itself, except for every now and then just erupts. Oh, yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate. So I'm going to geothermal pool. Leah, what body of water would you
I would
be?
love to see you get mad, and then I would immediately run away. I just would be like I would like
don't think
push
it's that bad.
TJ towards you, and then I would walk backwards.
Not me. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Well, I know. I just
Have you seen any Matt, TJ?
Baby?
I feel like it really just happened so rarely.
I don't know.
That's very sweet. If we're I thought we were kind of going for what we would want to be, like what we're aspiring to be.
That's fair.
So for me, since I am already a cyclone and a typhoon of insanity, what I would hope to be is what you were describing, Joshua. Is in my head, I had this vision of like a Caribbean, like warm pool with like clear
That sounds good.
water and like kind of maybe a cave situation. Like that's what I would be drawn to that.
Hmm.
I would want to embody that. In reality, you know that the movie The Meg, which is like about the shark? I'm like whatever
really bad.
version. Yeah, it's super bad. It's terrible. But I need you to know that I am whatever version of the notion that the Meg is. So that's why I would very much aspirationally love me a Caribbean pool somewhere.
Also, for those wondering, this might be the only time TJ's answered a question incorrectly. He is the Colorado River. He created the Grand Canyon. That's now TJ lore. Continue.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
TJ
you've been on
Lore
the show a few
continues.
times.
I have. I know you guys. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been on the show a few times. We're going to put a
Mhm.
link to all of the Leah episodes below. If you keep coming back, you might catch up to Tom Ord one day. Just
I feel a little
He's been on a lot.
Tom and
He's been on a whole
or
lot.
pass. Yeah, well, I mean, your guys are white guys, and he does process theology, so
Yeah,
that's
he's
that
great.
tracks.
Well, he writes a lot more books, to be fair. I don't know how he has time to do it.
because he has his own publishing company. You can't.
Create a publishing company and release 50 books, and we will have you on for every
I love
single
you,
one.
but you remember that cyclone. That cyclone's going.
Yeah. But for today's purposes, the purpose of our conversation, we want to start by asking you specifically your history with topics around the LGBTQ plus space. Have you always been an ally? Why did you feel the need to write this work? Do you identify as a part of a queer community? Tell us, what's the Leah's story? What's the connection here?
I was born. No, so I think I'm not
answer.
part of. Yeah. That if I was TJ, that's just where I would end. That would be.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of the community. I'm very painfully straight.
Painfully straight. Sorry, Stuart.
Well, there's moments where I'm like when the men's hockey team thing came out, I was like, ew. So anyway, but no, I am, but I will say that I've always been interested in sort of the gender stuff, and from when I was younger, because I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, that's tale as old as time here. And I've written about that and wanting to be ordained and that whole situation of their misreading of scripture that it continues to happen. It's also interesting to me when people start talking about women being too emotional and then just watching our current administration in office. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, okay. So
Amen. Sorry.
sorry, unity, but I have stances now. Sorry,
Well,
guys.
that's why we have the adjective church unity, because I can be like,
Yeah.
I don't. If I'm going to the creeds and stuff, or like Jesus is, I'm like, something seems like it doesn't fit, maybe.
But also, I think it's okay. And I teach humanity, so I teach religion. This is a side quest, but I teach religion, politics, and history. And I think it's one of those things where I have stances and I won't back down from them now. But what I think we've lost the ability to do is to talk about our varying stances. And there are certain things that I am not going to humor, like genocide or, sexual assault or, whatever, like fill in the blank. But there are certain things where I think we've kind of lost the ability to dialogue. And like it's okay that, you don't change my mind and I don't change yours. Like life goes on. But I do think we've lost that skill. So I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and gender was always a big thing for me because of what I wanted to do. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to do theology and I wanted to be a minister, and I was told that I couldn't. And I also just like, I mean, you guys are Southerners too. You know, the world that we grew up in was not always easy being a woman, I will say as well. I was forever saying, don't show your arms. You're going to cause a brother to stumble. I know you guys are just stumbling all over the place because my shoulders are on display here. But it seemed like a lot of pressure. And I also saw like even little things like when we would do like Thanksgiving and stuff at my house, and it would always be like the women cooking and cleaning and all of this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you love to cook and clean, go for it. But it just felt like they would bring me in. I'll be talking about football in the living room, and they'd be like, "We got to come in here and do this." Why? Because that's what you do, you know? So there was always these sort of prescribed roles that I didn't really understand. Um, and so that was always in my head. When I eventually went to college and seminary, I was very much educated. I was at Mercer, where I teach now, and I was educated in this idea that all of this other stuff that is wrong. So these were the Baptists that had been kicked out of Southern Seminary and a lot of these very conservative Baptist spaces. And so, they said, come to the seminary. We can, I mean, this sounds so crazy now coming out of my mouth, but in 2004, it was wild. They were like, we can educate women now. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, progress is progress.
Progress is progress. And at the time, I will tell you, it didn't feel strange for them to say that, like because you're in the world that you're in. So, like, you don't know. I can say this looking back, I won most likely to be a woman preacher at my religion night out or whatever of my undergrad. But even hearing that, I'm like, what? It sounds strange now, but this was 2004. So I go to seminary. So the gender stuff is important. But then when I go to Edinburgh, I at university for my PhD, and then I start working there. I realized that this is where the queer community stuff comes in. Is that I was getting all of the students that basically no one wanted to touch in terms of their PhDs. Um, those folks were predominantly people in the queer community who wanted to do queer theology. There's a long history of queer theology at Edinburgh with Marcella Althouse Reed. She had passed away whenever I started working there. So there was this big kind of gap, and I kept getting, it's all about, John Calvin and, whatever process stuff. Yeah, whatever.
Whitehead,
Colonel Burke,
Thomas Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas.
Do we get to be?
Here's what I'll say. Here's what my whatever is. There's plenty of people who will supervise those PhDs. You're not gonna have to fight for this. But I just kept getting this like slew of people who were like, but I want to look at this and this. So it made me have to really catch up with a lot of that stuff so I could be the support that I needed to be for them. And they started a LGBTQ group at Edinburgh, which was huge. I mean, this is not a conservative university by any stretch, but it was a very typically reformed Protestant space. And so I was the first speaker at their conference, which was great. But I had to learn really quick, and I had to learn in order to supervise. But it was in the same spirit, I think, as a lot of the stuff that I had dealt with when I was younger, which is like, okay, we want to talk, we want to have a voice, but people keep telling us that we can't be in this space, and how can we be in this space? And so I think that is something that, even though it wasn't a part of the community, that was important. So
Yeah. It is also, growing up in the South, we kind of have not unique, but a kind of special idea of gender, especially when we're younger, because of how normalized it is to be like a tomboy.
Mhm.
No one bats an eye. But whether or not that belongs in the queer community, no one talks about that. And how that, it almost seems like a lot of kids don't want to be, what they are.
Or it may just be that we are, again, much like the beginning of this podcast, is we're trying to put people in these structures that are arbitrary. And I didn't want to wash dishes. I wanted to talk college football, but I like, I wear all black, where my podcast partner, Christy, loves a good pink. But then I really love boys, and it's like, these are all, you'd be like, oh, she's here. But it's like, why are we putting people in these these
Yeah.
spaces, like
Mhm.
let them just be humans.
We are all wearing black.
Yeah. Well,
I
my
assume Josh
was that
doesn't have black pants on, but I
you
do.
I do.
Okay.
I
yeah.
also do.
Yeah.
What if we just started our own little emo band here?
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
since you did mention that your shoulders are showing, unfortunately, we are going to have to mark this podcast as explicit.
I don't want
Yeah.
to cause any of my brothers to
Yeah,
stumble
you know.
or my sisters to stumble or anyone in between to stumble.
We should start a band though, because my bass has black strings on it.
I can do nothing musically, but I could be like Flavor Flav. I could be like the hype woman and just like scream about how great you
I
are.
can't even clap and beat. Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, but Leah, does your book have a title yet?
It has a tentative title. It's called Born Perfect or Boy Erased: Bad Theology and the Conversion Therapy and Conversion Therapy. It's long. It's
You
long.
can't get away from the bad theology thing. Like that's got to be in there somewhere.
I didn't want to.
You didn't want it.
Bad theology
sorry.
and bad therapy.
Look, here's the deal. We were talking about Tom earlier. He's never going to get away from like the relational stuff. Like it will always be in every title to some degree. This is now my cross to bear, I guess, is that I wrote a book that was fairly popular. Now all the other publishers want me to include it on there. So it's more of a, yeah. Anyway, I would have shortened it, but
I mean, there's still time. I like it. I think it's good. I like that it has the bad theology in it. So I'm like, I like a good brand. It makes me happy.
it's a brand. It's
I like
now
consistency.
1, 2, 3. I mean, and also that guy who is my PhD that people is not related to bad theology, but so Boy Erased is a very popular novel. That's been turned into a movie about conversion therapy by Gerard Connolly. And Born Perfect is a website that was created in order to support people who'd been through conversion therapy. So it's this idea of like,
Yeah.
What?
I like that.
Yeah, but they're both like based in theology, and I think that was what really drew me there to begin with. Is what are we actually saying about this? Because these are two different theological interpretations, and it really seems to just be like where we hitch our wagon in a way, and not necessarily what has been coming from the sky downward.
Yeah. So that's not what I want. You mentioned. Sorry.
My head just is. If I was like really drinking, I would be like, oh my God.
So, the upcoming book, we have I'm trying to remember the title. I'm already like Born Perfect or
Boy Erased.
Boy Erased. Okay. Who would you say is the intended audience? And do you have like a main goal behind the project? Are you like advocating to ban conversion therapy, helping those who are hurt by the church, trying to change a church's doctrine, or just educating us on what's out there?
Yeah. So I had a conversation with our fellow friend of our podcast, Josh Patterson, about this and how you write books.
Love that guy.
Yeah. He's pretty cool.
Cool, Josh.
We just keep our eye on him, but he's pretty cool. And I was saying that when I wrote Embodied Peace Building, my academic friends loved it because it's basically a systematic theology. It's very dense. When I wrote Bad Theology, it was a half and half. So it was practical application and systematics in the beginning. My PhD students liked half of it. They liked the practical half. Bad Theology in COVID was written for congregations, essentially. It's written to be a helpful thing for them. But I will say my academic friends really don't like the COVID book. Now, what's different, you talk about audiences, what's different in all of this is that my brain hasn't changed. Like I can still write any of these books. It's just that you have to decide who your audience is going to be. And I think that's a real important thing to know before you start any book. My audience for this is as many people as possible. So it's not going to be a high academic book. because I want people to read it and to understand. So I'm going to do a summary of bad theology in it, the systematic aspect, which I really flesh out here because you can't just say something's bad theology and not flesh it out. So I'm going to do that. But then I want people to read it to understand what other people have gone through, because the majority of the book is going to be people's stories. It's a qualitative research project. So I've been interviewing people and transcribing, and it is rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
To hear their stories. So that is who my demographic is as many people who will read it that are a part of the community, the queer community, but also hopefully those that are not. And that is again why I wrote the COVID book too, is I wanted to reach people who were not in academics or not even in the beer camp crowd, that would read these books and be like, wow, my church wasn't the best. Or Will sent me a message. He goes, my church followed all of these protocols. And I was like, okay, so you're
I just love him.
I know, but he did. He was like, if you ever want to write about the good theology in COVID, I was like, it's not really it's not really what people are wanting me to do right now, but it would be nice. So the goal, I would say, well, we had a rather unfortunate, I don't know if you guys saw the Supreme Court event that happened recently. I think it was like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I got like 5,000 texts about it. I was talking about this on Theology on the Rocks. I was like, most people just text to like wish you a happy birthday, and I get texts like, "Did you see the Supreme Court did this thing?" So yeah, basically, I don't think this is being too like negative to say that they basically overturned the illegalness of conversion therapy in Colorado, and at the Supreme Court level, there's currently 23 states that have a ban on it. And so it means essentially that it'll probably unravel from that, unfortunately, because that's the way the federal government works. So my goal, I guess, has shifted since 2 days ago. My goal at first was just to show people how, damaging this process was, but also the theology that's behind it. What was the theology that's being used to fuel this? And now it's shifted to let me tell these stories. I mean, it's still that, but it's also let me tell these stories so you can see why it was banned to begin with. Because the suicide rate for people who've been through this is so high. So it's not just you don't like someone's theology, or you don't think, trans people should play sports, or whatever boogeyman that you have. It's not just that, it's that people are dying because they feel like they can't live up to a theology that's telling them that their entire existence is wrong and that they feel like they can't change.
I'm going to be a little annoying for a second because, I like law stuff a lot, probably too much. So, one, I don't like the Supreme Court's ruling. I'm going to start there because, that's, probably the safe thing. But the big asterisk, the thing that politicians like to do is blame the Supreme Court for things so that you're mad at them and don't pay attention to the fact that all that they did was interpret what laws already exist.
Yeah.
Your congressmen are the one you need to be mad about because they need to be doing their job and creating new legislation so that we have better rulings about these things in the future. But what they want you to do is be mad at the Supreme Court so you don't bother your congressmen and they can continue to not do their jobs. So make Congress do their jobs. Please write your congressman.
Agree.
That's all.
It is really fun to be mad at the Supreme Court, though.
Isn't it? It's a blast.
Well, in the Supreme Court, I will say that was an 8-1 ruling. So
Crazy.
that's a couple of those quote
Even the
liberal
progressive, yeah.
judges that were. I think Jackson is the only one that was the one, and so you had a couple that were for it. I've seen the written defense of why they were for it, because they said it would also open up a world where, because this basically the court case that went to the Supreme Court was that there was this Colorado Christian counselor that wanted to be able to speak about sexuality stuff and felt like they couldn't. This is a very too long, don't read. Like, there's a lot more to it, of course. And the Supreme Court said that, she should be allowed to do that, to talk to underage folks about that, people who are not of legal age. Now, the other side of that is, I think, at least the defense that the other justices have, is that this would also open up a space for people who need gender affirmation care. So trans kids would also be able to get counseling. I think that's the argument. How that ends up looking, I am less optimistic than those court justices about.
Yeah.
And again, there's probably more. I'm not a legal scholar. This is me reading. So
Yeah. Man, I'm a nerd. I'm just gonna say, guys, if you can go to a podcast that I enjoy listening to called Advisory Opinions, it is a more conservative, but they're like conservatives who don't like Trump, if that helps. But they tend to do a really good job at predicting which way the court's going to rule and how many are going to rule in favor of. Like, they do a really good breakdown of everything. So if you just kind of want to know more about it, go find that podcast and listen to it, because that's a legal podcast and this one's not. And TJ will eventually tell me to shut up.
Yeah, no, please do, because I claim one thing that I've gotten very good at of being an academic is staying in my lane, and that's not my lane. Like, I read the news articles like you and everybody else. So
Yeah.
Another thing we do really bad in America, that's part of this whole problem. We don't clarify what counts as medical help when it comes to like therapy and like all that kind of stuff. So we don't want to ban people from expressing their opinions at all. And we don't really have a good way of saying this is what classifies as medical help and this is what classifies as your religious opinion. And maybe we just need to draw lines better. But I don't know. That's a whole nother, I'm not qualified to talk about thing.
Well, I mean, I do think what I am qualified to talk about, I will say, is with the conversion therapy stuff, is that these people weren't counselors. Like, they weren't like qualified, certified counselors. I'm currently trying to get in a counselor program now because I'm a glutton for punishment. You have to actually be like certified in your state to be a counselor. These people weren't that. They were folks who were what I guess you could call theological counselors for their specific position. But they were basically ministers. But they were claiming this sort of counseling status. Now, can I say every single one wasn't? No, because I'm not a betting person, because I don't trust myself. Cyclone. However, what I read is that overwhelming majority were not professional people. So that's something to keep in mind too. So when we say conversion therapy, you need to really put therapy in quotations there.
Yeah. So through the course of this project, what would you say like your 3 biggest revelations have been?
Yeah, I think probably the first biggest revelation is, so of course I was really focused on the theology that they were using. That was what I was interested in. So I was wanting to do qualitative research. I wanted to hear the stories. I wanted to know the theology they were using that was bad theology that they were trying to levy against these folks. And I think what's interesting is how the theology shifted. So this sort of practice, there's many dates, but like sort of the heyday, I would say, is like the 90s, basically. You start to see it. And then it starts to kind of, they start shutting into the early 2000s. So that's sort of the time period that we're operating in. In that sort of 90s time, it was a very much, you'll appreciate this, Joshua, a very sort of Pentecostal view was quite popular, which is that, theologically speaking, is that these young people would go in to conversion therapy and that God would change them. Like, just something miraculous would happen and they would be not gay. There was some sort of supernatural element there. As the years start to progress, what you start to see is the theology begins to shift. And that's because a lot more scandals started to come out. Because I don't know if this is going to shock anyone, but it didn't really have very successful numbers of people not being gay. It was almost like it wasn't working. But the ministries couldn't admit that, oh, well, God doesn't actually want them to be, the theological gymnastics is it's not working because God doesn't want them to be gay. Well, that undermines my whole, or that God he wants them to be gay. So that undermines my whole theological argument there. So what they start to shift to is this idea that essentially you're choosing, like you're gay, okay? But you as a human are choosing this lifestyle. Like, God doesn't want you to be gay. Somehow you're still gay because you're a delinquent. You're a theological delinquent.
I do want to know like how that like follow-up survey went. Like they just send them a box and it asks if they're still gay, or do they send in one male nurse and one female nurse, and they do like the put the dog in the middle thing.
They either get to see who was it you were talking about earlier from on our other show, John Belodi or whatever, or Zendaya.
Elrodi and Zendaya. We were talking about.
Yeah. They just see an image of both of them.
Yeah,
and
TJ,
that
we
tells
have
us
this
exactly.
graphic right before your combo.
Yeah, I'm glad they broke up and she got back together with Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Jacob
Fairly-
Elliott
Oh yeah,
says less
they did
things.
date. They did date. We didn't even talk about that.
What?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Mm.
But
Yeah. But yeah, no. So that was surprising. I think it's just. And wait, what did you ask? You asked, how do they know? Follow up. Yeah. So how they knew, is really interesting because essentially it's because you had to complete the program, and the biggest thing with completing the program was they wanted to make kind of poster children out of the people that were successful and get them to give their testimony. So giving you all grew up in the testimony world. I did as well, is that the biggest sort of thing that they could show that they were successful was the testimony. And sometimes that testimony is, I married a woman, and I should say this is majority men as well. So if it's gendered, that's why.
Yeah.
I married a woman and I have children and I am completely changed. Or the testimony can just be, I'm, because of this shift in theology, I am choosing to be not gay by not having relationships, essentially.
Mhm.
And that's really how they judged it. The issue that starts to come out, I laugh a little because at some stage you have to, is that you had these poster children who were giving their testimony, and a lot of them started to work for these big organizations. The two biggest ones were Love in Action and Exodus, these ministries. There was a lot of controversy that started to happen that maybe showed that their testimony wasn't entirely honest. Yeah. So that's where you start to see people being like, so it was either the answer is it was either these testimonies or people just dropped out. For reference, one person has told me that they went to Love in Action. It was $7,000 for 3 months. And they said that you would have to be in there for at least a year.
No.
So, yeah. So that's another there's another cash grab that you'd think if God really wanted this to take place, God would be a little bit more generous in terms of how much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$30,000 a year and we'll make you straight.
Yep.
Yeah. So since you kind of brought up a little bit of this of like whether God can change someone, whether they're making that choice, a lot of this stuff gets brought up. So I think a lot of this conversation still happens, and now it's usually, are you side A or side B Christian? And it's, do you think that they're making that choice and they're just evil wretches when they get saved, they'll want to, or do you think people are born that way, identify that way, and maybe continue to be that way, and they just need to not act on it, would be kind of like type B. And like with a Christian Unity podcast, I will say I have a much easier time with side B stuff where I'm like, I disagree with you, but it's easier to disagree with. The side A people tend to be more angry, it seems like. Just in my experience. I want to get your opinion on this because we're talking about testimonies. Jackie Hill Perry, I think someone who gets brought up a lot, and she writes a book. She's, a side B. She was allegedly born gay, had this whole thing, had an experience with God. God changed her, that she married a man and has a thing. But even in her book, she says, I don't think that's what happens for everyone. What do we do with those kind of testimonies that do exist? Because like sexuality is weird, and some stuff times weird stuff happens, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there are some of these folks who came out and they're like, I am changed in whatever version, like you said, that looks like, whether it's celibacy or it's marrying someone, and it worked. And, I'm all about the nuance. I think it's okay. I think we're very capable of existing on this kind of spectrum. But what I will say on the other side of that is the overwhelming, and I mean, it's overwhelming. Like these, it doesn't appear to be a thing that works, quote unquote, in the way that they want this objective to be, which is to make people ex-gay.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would argue theologically, it doesn't matter if you're on side A or side B of that coin. That's how they adjusted it, because the numbers weren't looking great. But I don't think it necessarily matters. What to me matters is the fact that these folks had to, a lot of them were forced into these things as underage children and told that they were kind of abominations, basically.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the bigger issue. How you want to understand sexuality is your own kind of personal journey. But I do think that the bigger issue here is that we've now opened it up for, again, these kids, and these kids are committing suicide. Jack McIntyre very famously killed himself and he wrote in his note, he said, I can't change who I am, but I also don't feel like I can be who God wants me to be. So I have no other options here. And he tells his family he's sorry. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. And I just think if we are a group of people as a church who are trying to support and love people, this ain't it. Like, and I honestly don't think it's being liberal or conservative to say that. Like, if we are here to love and support, like, this isn't that. Like, it's making someone feel like they're terrible humans every single day. We've lived through that. Like, I mean, I talked about that early on in this podcast, is I know what that's like. It doesn't make you closer to God. It doesn't make you want to be a Christian. It makes you kind of mad at the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to clarify something and then ask you a question not related to what I'm clarifying. But for those listening who haven't read her other books, when Leah says bad theology, she isn't just saying, ew, gross, I don't like that theology. She lays out criteria for what makes something bad theology and then compares it to, like, it's a whole actual academic process. I'm curious about bad theopraxy. Because well, we all know some people, and this time I'm not gonna use names, but we know people who I think we would say who are. I'm gonna do the other side first. We know people who are affirming, who are kind of assholes about it, and not very nice to people who disagree with them. And I'm like, I don't like that at all, actually. And I know people who I hate their theology around this. They're not affirming, like what they're say they believe. I'm like, that is dangerous and bad for people. But then how they actually treat people, I'm like, I would much rather be friends with this guy than that other guy. So I guess the question is, like, how much more does practice matter than theology in this, or does it matter?
Yeah. Well, I'm a practical theologian, so I believe that all theology is practical. There is no
good answer.
If it is not practical, it's been abstracted from a practice. So that is Don Browning, but I've stolen it. Josh Patterson gave me credit for it the other day, and I was like, I'm pretty sure Paul said that as well, but thank you very much, I guess.
I usually give you credit for that line too.
I think I appreciate that, and you can keep doing it. It's because I do say it, but I'm maybe not the first to say it.
Yeah.
I think Schleiermacher also said it, but you know what? Whatever.
Yeah.
They're long gone.
So did
They don't
Leah
need
Robinson.
tenure.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't need
some
tenure.
man.
Some man,
Yeah.
I need tenure. They're long gone. They're with our Lord. Yeah, so I think that is kind of, I mean, I was doing a little bit of a social justice rant there, but I do think it's one of those things where I'm blaming it a little bit on the evangelism with a little e culture, not the big evangelical culture, in the sense of like people have to do a certain thing to get to heaven kind of thing, or say a certain prayer, or, which, by the way, none of this is biblical or, even historically theological. But they have to do this thing to get into this, this place. So what we started to see is that sort of idea of having the exact formula, which, by the way, the church I grew up in, the Southern Baptist Church, probably had a very different prayer than you had, Joshua. So which of us is going to heaven? I don't know.
Probably
Me.
TJ.
It's just
Just TJ.
Yeah.
That's
I'm the
right.
only one who stayed at his church. That's what
I was
really
gonna say,
matters.
and you probably had a different prayer too. So what about the prayer?
Yeah. That whole thing about TJ being the most coherent man alive earlier. Turns out it's accurate and
Yeah.
also the only criteria.
This
Yeah.
feels like some sort of like Judd Apatow stoner movie where somehow TJ is like the actual one that's going to heaven and all the rest of us are not.
Yeah,
Even though we think
unfortunately, predestination is real, and I'm the only person
that's
on
it.
the list.
I love it.
Sorry.
There's this whole theological concept that is totally not made up by humans, and that that you're the only one in 2026. That's
Yeah.
gonna make it.
Yeah.
All the rest.
Also, I'm just a little sad that TJ's follow up wasn't, but it won't really be heaven without you. I like it. Doesn't matter who he's
Well, it's
talking
still-
to. I just feel like he should still say that.
Not this time.
No.
Okay.
Next time.
TJ's like, heaven is when I'm by myself.
Just alone.
That's why it's heaven is peace.
So yeah, I mean, you can't really, people are basing these practices, and again, I was talking about my rant, but like these are not just normal church practices. Like we can choose the church we go to when we're adults, and I think that's important. You can choose if you want to happy clappy, if you want to go with the snakes, if you want to, do whatever, go to a Joel Osteen and have no mess, just vague platitudes of how your life's going to be better. You can do that too. Choose your poison. But I think what we're seeing here is it's the kids that, and you and me and TJ all know that we didn't have choices. Like I grew up where I grew up because my parents got me up and took me there. And I think that's one of the things about praxis is that we know as adults that the theological spectrum is wide, varied, and you can go to wherever you want and you can find a bubble that will affirm what you believe to be true, but it's going to be different in each of these places. As a kid, you don't know that. That's your whole world. Like you think that this is it. So like when you hear that what you are as a human is bad, you had no idea really that there are other views out there and that this is just my parents' view and maybe it's not the best, because what you're being told is you're wrong. So I'm all about theological freedom. Pick your poison, as I always say, unless it's those snakes, and then be careful with your poison. But
What do you have against the snakes, man?
I have nothing. I've actually just been recently researching some of that stuff, so it's on my brain. I found out that most of the snakes actually don't do their poison bites when they bite the people. That's why so many people survive. Interesting factor.
Because of God.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, because of God as well. Well, God makes it. Well, here's the thing: does God make it so they don't bite like that? The kids part is what gets me, is because they don't have that sort of choice, and they don't have that understanding. And so a lot of the stories we hear are people who were forced into that. Interestingly, one of my interviews is an adult person who wanted to be a worship leader at a church, and they told him that in order to do that he needed to go to conversion therapy. And so he opted to do it because he, again, was in a non-affirming church, and he felt like that was something that was correct. And so I think that to me is a different situation, because here's the deal. Guess what? He left after, I think he made it 2 months, and he was like, this blows. I'm out. This ain't helping nothing. Kids can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the church camp that never ends, except you're the worst.
Yeah. And you don't like church camp.
And you don't like church camp. Right.
Because
right.
DJ and I loved church camp. It was
We loved
great for
church
us.
I had a great time at church camp, but I didn't love the outfit I had to wear in Georgia.
Yup.
Keep my brothers from stumbling.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, they didn't even care about that for us. Maybe
There was a length thing, like fingertip length thing for shorts or something.
Because if you go past the fingertips, it's just like a big orgy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most importantly, most snakes don't have poison. It's venom, and you can drink that if you want. Won't do anything. In any show you see that has people like slipping snake venom, it's like, oh, this is gonna kill them. I put them in a drink. That's just dumb. It infuriates me.
I've drank
Yeah,
snake
makes me
wine
really
in
mad.
Vietnam. It had an actual poisonous snake in it, and it's wine.
No, if that had a poisonous snake in it, it would have killed you. It had a venomous snake in it.
That's fine.
Okay. Are y'all in a snake handling church that you're not telling me about?
I just don't like when people confuse venom and poison. It's one of my random pet peeves.
I don't like animal misinformation.
It's a strange thing, but here's the deal. I get it. Bad theology. Pitch your tent. Pitch your tent on the mountain.
I'm gonna go get a doctorate in poisonology just so I can be more angry about this.
About this snake venom.
My toxicology degree just specifically.
Just for that. Just
okay, well,
so
let
I
me
have
authority
to fight.
Sirs, let me clarify. I had wine with a snake that maybe had venom in it.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm so glad. I never knew.
Yeah, it is cool though. I know what you're talking about. It is really cool.
You can see them in like the jars.
Yeah, it's in the bottle. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. That's cool.
I mean, it was real gross, but
I want to try it now.
So
Just to say I did.
So when Born Perfect or Conversion Therapy comes out, where should we go to buy it?
well, I'm with Bloomsbury Publishing, which is a great publisher. They were I want to really give props to them because they were super supportive of this process. And they also took a chance on a book that, I've told people in different podcasts, I've applied to, I think, like 3 jobs now that I've not got because of this book. Because it's still such a...
Well, that's
Still-
a little
still-
sad.
It is sad, considering I wrote a book called Bad Theology, but this is the one that... And I've been told, like, it's not me being, like, conspiracy theory or anything. They've said that, like, people don't want to touch the sexuality thing. They're like... Basically, I feel like with theology and sex is what they want people to go to their spaces. Speaking of church unity, which is that if you are affirming, then you go to your affirming space and be over there. If you're not, then you go over here. But the issue then is that we're in echo chambers. And also when we try to bring our thing to another space, people immediately are like, no, you're in the wrong space, And that's not really what church unity should be about. I mean, I'll never, again, agree with some of the theologies that are presented, but you should still be able to, like, chat about it and talk about it. And I think we've lost that ability, sadly. But so the jobs, I will say one of them is at a public university that I didn't get because of this. So it's transcending this in North Carolina. It's transcending now just theological academics in spaces that you might think like seminaries. You might be like, oh, well, they're probably not gonna like that. It's starting to be a thing, or maybe it always was.
Well, the more polarized our world gets, the more it's like, yeah, even if we agree with you, people see this, and then we lose half of this country who won't come here just because this exists, which is stupid. I feel like I shouldn't call things stupid, but I think that particular thing.
Well,
might be
it's
stupid.
become like it's a money thing. I mean, I've worked at churches. I don't know, you guys maybe have as well. Money is so important, like in terms of nonprofits. So you need to have people there. You can't really upset the status quo, which is why a lot of people don't preach politics because they don't want to exclude people in that sense. Um, but I do also think, yeah, we're becoming more siloed in what we think. And, you know, if you're not, you don't even want me to talk to your students about this at all. Like, even to have a discussion. Like, I teach seminary right now at a Baptist seminary. I'm fully capable of talking about these things and you disagreeing. If you were, I mean, I'm sure TJ and Joshua and I have completely different opinions on this subject, but it doesn't mean we can't talk. And I know I keep bringing this up and I keep harping on it, but it is really important because otherwise you're just listening to your own stuff over and over.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate listening to my own stuff.
do you listen to your podcast, TJ?
No,
He doesn't listen
You
to any
not?
podcasts.
no, never.
Really?
I don't even listen to the episodes that I wasn't on.
What he doesn't know is that
that maybe
I've edited him saying crazy stuff every episode just to test, you know?
Yeah, I don't. The only so
listen.
I've listened to one of our episodes ever,
Yeah.
maybe two, but it was when I wasn't able to make it, and it was with you and Christy.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
sweet.
I
It's
did
because
know
we're
about that.
fun.
He
And
listened to that
cute.
before it was out.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
that. While it was still just on here.
Well,
So it
you'll
didn't even
listen.
count for numbers.
You'll listen to this one though, because we'll be
No, I
Christy's.
was here.
I know, but you got to hear it again. Christy's here in spirit. She's always beside me
Yeah.
in spirit.
Yeah. Well, it's now that time. The time for Leah to shine. This is probably her favorite segment and also Tom's least favorite segment, where we like to ask our guests to provide a single tangible, something practical. So, you know, what's something practical people could do?
Tom doesn't like a practical.
You never think about the practical. No, I think Tom doesn't like when we ask the God moment, actually, because he's like, every moment's God moment. I'm like, yeah, but we're asking about,
I agree.
come on. We know what you mean, but like, come on. Colloquial. You gotta.
I should say I rail on Tom a lot, but he and I like Tom very much.
I
We
love
just
Tom.
we
He's one
just
of my
have
favorites.
theologically we are. This is a good example of unity. We are on the complete opposite ends of the theological scale.
Yeah, Tom's the only
So-
person allowed to mention masturbation on this show.
Well, I mean, now you. So,
Oh,
so what's.
We can.
So,
say
I meant DJ just
it's
did.
our-
no, I know.
So, what's one thing that you think people could do that practically that could make them more like you and Tom? If you are able to disagree, but still have a little bit of respect and unity involved.
Read stuff you don't like. You know, I think read stuff that you don't think you're going to fundamentally agree with. I perpetually read stuff from, so for instance, Fox News. I usually look at that stuff daily. And I read stuff from these theologians that I don't agree with, that are more conservative than me, because I do think it's interesting when you talk to people, you realize when people have actually engaged with stuff that they don't agree with. And then people who are just like, no, they just do like a big cross and they're like, don't even talk to me about it. Whereas like, at least I can have a conversation with you about it.
Mhm.
And I think we're not.
So what changes in the world around us if everyone starts reading those, just reading things they're not gonna agree with?
You might find that you agree with some of the stuff. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
You might find that there's a human element. Like I was telling Joshua in the last episode, like I saw a Tucker Carlson interview and I was like, wait, are you making sense? Well, like what's happening?
Sometimes.
But I was like, I really wish he was on not that far right side. That would be nice sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that is, but that's the hand across the aisle, I think, which is this idea that you know where your firm no's are, but you might see some humanity in someone else. And I hope that's what this book does, is that's the goal. is to give you not only the stories, but the feelings that these people had that were fellow Christians that were feeling like they wanted to not live anymore because of who they were. And to really take it on ourselves and be like, okay, you don't think X, Y, and Z about sexuality, that's fine. But what about this human who is now never going to go back to a church again, ever? And is that what you want? Because that's not really doing what you wanted, you know?
Yeah. I want to add to, when you do Leah's incredibly thoughtful, practical action, be humble, except that you might be the one that's wrong, not the thing you're reading. Because if you don't genuinely engage with stuff, we can't have genuine change. This is something that just makes me mad, that made me mad post the last time Trump was elected. How many people were like, I'm just not talking to anyone who voted for him. And I'm like, listen, I agree. I am also very angry. I also think that was stupid. If we're not able to genuinely connect and try to relate to one another, like, hey, maybe I could be wrong or any of that, nothing will ever change. And that's not what I want. So
Yeah. And it's also, but I really want to emphasize it's holding to what you think is important too. You can do both of those things. You know, like you can hold to this idea that, you know, because I agree with you. I think this is a catastrophic decision that was made. And you'll never change my mind about that. Nothing can happen, I think, that could change that. But you can also hold to humanity's worth. And I think those are different things. And you can do that. Like that's, so it's not asking you to give up your sort of morals or where you stand or where you believe theology is. It's just to see people as going on a very difficult journey as well. And hopefully not putting them through. I mean, some of the stuff that's going to come out in this book, I feel like people are going to read and they're going to cry. I cry when I transcribe it. And I'm like, this is the church. Like, I know you don't like this about this person and you think it's theologically wrong, but they're never going to step foot across that barrier again. They'll never walk in a church again. And was that the goal? Like, yeah.
yeah, that's
So
sad.
it is sad. But before we wrap up, we like to do what we call our God moment. You know this, maybe. But we'll just ask everyone to share a moment where they saw God in their life recently, whether it be a blessing, a challenge, a moment of worship, curse, whatever it is. Whatever God's been doing in your life, that's what we want to hear. So, Josh, Copper, you're going to go first, Copper.
Copper's like, I had a God
Copper
moment.
wants to go first.
Copper has a lot to say. Yeah, I saw God recently in my future when I was blessed eating chicken parm very shortly after this. I'm really excited for that. So that's actually going to be my God moment. I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah. I get it. I understand.
Sometimes food does it, you know.
For me, it gets very hard. We're all adults here, including me, much to your dismay. I was born in 1999, by the way.
I was his camp counselor. That's why it makes me sad.
You owe me money. I said he couldn't go through a whole episode and not bring up his age. I don't bet, so we didn't put any money on it. But
Man,
it's pretty funny for me. But it's really hard to plan stuff with adults. It really sucks. And there is an arcade bar near me that closed down yesterday. And we managed to get 8 people to find the time to go together on the last day of operation and just have a good time. One last time.
yeah.
So
Will your next God moment be when me, you, Leah, Tiffany, and Wyatt Stewart go
I
to
was
a
waiting
bar?
to see if you could get it. A Barney.
Is that the next God moment?
He's like,
did you say Christy?
Did I? Sure.
did you
Her
call
too.
Christy?
No,
I don't think
I'm
so.
just saying, did he include her? Because if not, why
True.
would
Well,
she?
you know, it's in Charlotte. Why would she come all the way from Florida?
For
Because
you?
I exist. Have you met me?
You stupid.
I mean, if I was in Florida, I don't know if I would leave Florida.
I'm going to Florida in September to see the format with her because,
Me too.
I mean, I don't even really like the format, but just because it's Christy. So yes,
that's
really
fair.
format for that.
So, Leah, do you have a God moment for us?
Good segue. Yes, I do. This is gonna sound way more churchy than I usually sound, but I went to church on Easter. And I will say that there's been a lot of oh, thank you. You know,
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
the like high holiday I went. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Christy and I have talked about this as well, out with the sort of political realm of insanity. We've had a lot of we call it our spring of disappointment if you've listened to the podcast, but it really has been living up to that name. It just is like a real series of stuff that's happened that kind of sucked, and it just kept sucking. And then like we had relatives that went to the hospital, and then we'd wake up and we'd get a paper rejected, and it just became a thing of like, it was varying degrees of suckage, but it was true suckage. And I just was like, okay, this is starting to get a little like self-fulfilling prophecy here. So then when I went to Easter, it was a good sermon, but it was the guy, basically the pastor said, just have a moment, and like if stuff is really bad, like just think about it, like pray about it. And so I had a minute, like I am not like an emotional churchgoer. I'm very Southern Baptist that way. But I was just like bawling because I just was like, where do you want me to freaking start? Like, here we go, God. Like, this is all the things that are going wrong. And so when I looked up, I looked at Stuart, and he said I just had like, I look like some sort of like rainstorm victim. Like,
Aw.
I know, because it just was one of those things. But I do think like a good lament is my God moment. Like, I think I don't participate in a good lament. And I think I just was like, it wasn't like I said, change the world right now, or I asked for anything wild. I just was like, I need you to hear me right now and know that your sister is struggling.
Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful.
I get that. You should listen to Passenger more. That's always a lament. Pretty much every song, actually.
I was on the evangelicals, the crossover.
Nice.
So.
You should actually listen to Blue Oyster Cult. I find their music affects me.
Really like a jam band?
You don't let it move you, though, do you?
No.
Christian
No,
Ashley.
let nothing move you, Christian Ashley. But if you like this
You're not
show,
allowed to move us?
That's the name of his other podcast.
Oh,
Let
sorry.
Nothing Move You.
Yeah.
So we have to constantly make jokes about that because we're immature.
yeah.
Okay.
But if you like this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend, share it with an enemy, share it with your cousins,
Especially your cousins.
especially your cousins. Tell your enemies not to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know.
My cousins
either
would
way.
not like this podcast. Speaking of people you still have to talk to.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
So, go to the website, buy a shirt. That's it. That's the promo.
Buy my book when it comes out.
That's true. Where do they get it again?
You can get it on Bloomsbury's website. Avoid, I used to say wherever you want to get it, but I'm going to say avoid Amazon. Let's not get it.
Yes?
In which case, go to your public library, request them to get a copy, and more
100.
people read it. I'm just going to keep telling people to do that because I think it's just a great way of getting other books out there.
I'll probably have I'll buy a bunch and you can ask me nicely.
Nice. Also, check out the other shows on the Podcast Network. Leah is on Systematic Ecology and Theology on the Rocks. Check those out. Also, I like saying Brandon Knight's name.
It is really
And he has a podcast, My Seminary Life.
Brandon Knight's
That's on the network. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, the Knights of Me are actually Brandon's Knights.
I always talked about if Stuart had a better last name, I would have changed it, which is kind of rude. I mean,
That's funny.
Robinson's a classic.
If I was having a kid and naming him George, I would have took my wife's last name. It's Lucas.
oh,
Yeah. So
well,
Yeah.
there's that.
I mean, you've got like the Swiss Family Robinson. Like you've got a legacy to live up to.
I was saying, I was telling Joshua how many times I've been saying Mrs. Robinson to is a shocking amount. And to have to make a face where I act like it's the first time.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Like now I'm gonna get it even more having said that out loud.
Yeah, you manifested.
Mhm.
Unintentional.
So, we do hope you enjoyed it. Coming up, we're going to be having Olivia Hasty on to discuss her work with the Catholic Church and ministering to those on the spectrum. After that, we'll be interviewing Chantal Morales-McKinney, I'm not sure, about her new book, Following Jesus Beyond Church Walls. Then we're going to be having another roundtable discussion on evangelism, mission work, and other means of outreach. After that, we do plan to soon begin a series on behind the scenes of ministries. Like publishing, local church, I don't know, pew creation. We got any pew builders
Worship,
listening?
maybe?
Reach out to
That
us.
would be cool, actually.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a How It's Made episode on pews.
Yet.
You need a youth ministry. Like I did youth ministry for 4 years. That in itself is
Yeah, that's why.
you need a behind the scenes of that. Yeah.
At the end of season
already
1, of
the
course, Francis Chan's going to be on the show.
Yeah. He doesn't know about it, though, so someone does have to tell him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe force him. It just depends.